back to Buzz Moncton. What a treat today. We get to talk to Phoebe Legere, who has deep roots here in the province of New Brunswick, and in this area in particular, and who recently visited us from the U.S. So welcome to Buzz Moncton, Phoebe.
I'm so happy to be here.
Wow, it's great to have you here. Now you're involved in so many, I think the term I saw was transgenre artists.
Transgenre or multidisciplinary, multi-format. What it means is that I'm a creative person who loves all of the arts, and I love to practice all of them.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite art form?
Yeah.
You know, the different arts, we were talking about the people before we went on air. We were talking about people who are ear people who basically learn by listening, and people who are visual people. And these things happen in slightly different parts of the brain. So when I go to that part of the brain, let's say I'm doing a painting, a landscape, let's say I'm doing a beautiful landscape in an extraordinary paysage. Oh, I'm not supposed to speak French. Here in New Brunswick, where you have some of the most beautiful wild landscapes in the world, by the rivers, the fields, the streams. When I'm painting, I'm all about that. I'm in total focus. I'm in that part of my brain, and it's like everything else disappears. When I'm playing music, I'm the same way. So I don't really have a favorite. It's a question of emphasis.
Do you remember what your introduction was to the performing arts? Because I get a feeling it was young in your experience.
Thank you for asking. It's a great question. People often ask me because I play many instruments and it seems so natural to me. Yes, I began before age 3. As soon as I could reach up and feel the piano keys, I started to play them. And as has happened to me so many times in my life, I've been extremely lucky about the people that God has put in my path. I was lucky enough to have a great piano teacher that lived right across the street, and I could hear the music coming out of her windows. And as soon as I could walk, I started crossing the street, and I would just sit on her stoop, and she opened the door one day and let me in. She taught me for free for 10 years until I started at the conservatory.
That is amazing. What a great story.
I've been very, very lucky.
Now, let's go ahead a few years.
Okay.
You've just released an EP, Acadian Moon.
Acadian Moon is the name of the EP, with my cousin, Ray Legere.
Right, award-winning multi-instrumentalist in his own right.
Champion, yep.
Yeah, that's
very
right.
much like me, except with a mustache.
He does have a little bit more facial hair, I'll give him that, sure. But what was kind of your thought process there? Because you have done so much. You're based out of the U.S. now. Is it New York City?
I'm in New York City, and I own land in Maine.
Okay.
I'm Acadian, as you know, French-Canadian, and also part Abenaki.
Okay.
That's the tribe that's in Maine and in Canada.
Okay.
So I'm on some of the ancient Abenaki territory, and I own a waterfall.
Very cool.
And it's my great joy to be there in the mountainous region of Maine.
So you've been doing this a while now. What's the timing of this Acadian Moon? There must be some inspiration behind it.
It sure was. The family genealogist, whose name is Leopold Legere, who was the math teacher here in Moncton, wrote. I was an early adopter on the internet, because although I was signed to Epic Records, I always had a little trouble breaking through, because America is controlled by the forces of greed and evil. Gangsters of the worst kind. And I was always playing good music, so it's harder for the good music to get through. I loved the internet because I could get my music out to the people. So I was right on there. I founded a thing called mp3.com, and I adopted that compression technology, and I started to pump out my music, and I began to get famous. So, I mean, I had opened for David Bowie on his national tour, and I had done some big stuff. But that's different from being a household name, which is like being a corporate entity. I was always independent.
You're kind of anti that, then.
I'm anti that. I'm anti-corporate. I'm pro-people. The community. I'm a community activist. Okay, so thank you. So I got an email from Leopold Legere, who worked right down here in the math department. And he said, I see your name is Legere. Would you like to come up to the family reunion? And I said, where is it? He said, well, it's in Moncton, New Brunswick. I had never been here. I knew everybody came from here. So I got on the bus with the accordion and I came up here. And that was my first taste of the true Acadiana.
La joie de vivre.
The joie de vivre, the savoir-vivre. And I just fell in love with it. The warmth of the folks, the embracing love, the lack of snobism, and that ethnic identity, which is one of the joys in life. You know, we're all the same, but there's something about knowing you're part of a community that is so gorgeous and that's so lacking in modern life. So I came every 5 years, and last year I wrote a song for the family, a chanson, because we're one of the 17 familles d'origine d'Acadie. We're one of the original 17 families. So I wrote a song about our ancestor, the first guy who came here. He was a drummer who worked for Louis XIV, Louis XIV, if you can imagine. He settled over there in Nova Scotia. And since that time, all of us love rhythm, and we love math, and we love music. And it's very easy for us. So I wrote this song, and I played it for the family. And maybe they were just blowing smoke up my patootie, but they said, this is great, this is really great. So I sent it over to Ray. I said, would you put some violin on this? Next thing I know, I'm up in Memramcook, and we're recording this song, L'Acadie. I have 3 songs in French and 1 song that I wrote in English, because my radio promoter said, maybe you ought to reach a little beyond just the French audience and write something in English, since that's what you speak so often. So in about 5 minutes, I sat down and I wrote a song about my love life, which has not been too happy. In fact, at one point, I actually tried computer dating. So I wrote a song about the exact things that I had written on the profile and the stuff that the guys wrote back to me. I had 500 responses in 10 minutes from the guys. And you used that as I just wrote down what they said. Yeah. So that's the song. And I'll play a little of it for you if you want.
If you don't mind.
Okay,
I think it'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it sounds different when you've got a microphone and everything. Usually, that's one thing about modern life, is that usually you hear performers mediated by a lot of electronic equipment, microphones, and all kinds of machines that make people sound better. My hair is my own. This is my real hair, but it does get in the way, and a few other things get in the way. You got to kind of get it out of the way to play. Okay, so now I'm going to play my own composition, OK Cupid. Oh yeah. So what I do is I channel Acadian melodies from my ancestors, and then I write the social commentary on top of these melodies. So I posted a little photograph of myself all dressed in green. I wrote a few words on the profile, and I hoped you were looking for me. I wrote, I want to dance in France, and ride to the moon. I want to swim naked in a swimming pool, make love in a hot air balloon. Okay, Cupid, what's the use in waiting? Okay, Cupid, I'll try computer dating. He wrote, I like your smile, you look fun. I like your eyes, I love your tongue. Do you like women or men? Do you want to experiment? Are you religious or spiritual? Are you thin or fat? Are you vegetarian? Do you prefer dogs or cats? I wrote, I want to dance in France, and ride to the moon. I want to swim naked in a swimming pool, make love in a hot air balloon. Okay, Cupid, what's the use in waiting? Okay, Cupid, I'll try computer shine, the clouds are fine, spread your wings and glide. We'll be so happy, rise like the moon in the tide. Unzip your loneliness, my dear, come out of your private hell. It's heaven when you're near me, we're so compatible. I want to dance in France, and bike ride to the moon. I want to swim naked in a swimming pool, make love in a hot air balloon. Modulation. Okay, Cupid, what's the use in waiting? Okay, Cupid, I'll try computer dating. Date to meet for tea and scones. I texted back, yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes. On my beautiful new iPhone. And when we finally met, I got a big surprise. It was my next door neighbor, the one with the big blue eyes. He said, I want to dance in France, and bike ride to the moon. I want to swim naked in a swimming Okay, Cupid, what's the use in waiting? Okay, Cupid, I'll try computer dating.
So much fun. That was fantastic, Phoebe. Phoebe Legere on buzzmoncton.com. And be sure to tune in. Join us often. You know, check out our videos and our events page and find out where all your favorite people are playing in town. And certainly when Phoebe comes back in town and performs at some point, we'll have her listing up there too. So thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
So much fun, eh?
Ready?
So much fun.
I can do that until the cows come home, basically, and I generally do.